Hello and greetings, fellow StarCrafters. PGL Milcraft here from ProGamingLeagues.com with a 1 versus 1 between the blue Zerg player, whose name is in Korean, but this is SlayerSCella, and the red Terran player, IMMVP. IMMVP, very good player. He has actually won one GSL Code S already, and he is actually playing tomorrow in the finals, so if you want to watch him, it's at 3 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow. In terms of American time, definitely worth watching. I'm hopefully going to be able to watch it, but if not, I'll be watching it later. It's going to be very exciting. He's playing against OGS Top, and I'm super excited for that. Extremely good player, though. He did once get kicked out of Code S, but made his way back in and has climbed his way back up to the top, and he's in the finals again, so very impressive. The Zerg player, SlayerSCella, is a little less, his resume is a little smaller. He actually started the GSL in Code A, I think he was. But he ended up he ended up getting kicked out of it, and then he's kind of been out of it for a while. In the August qualifier for Code A, he actually made it to the finals of his qualifier, which let him participate in Code A the next year. Unfortunately, he played Downrange Gu and lost 0-2 to Downrange Gu, so he did not in fact advance to Code A, and is outside of Code A. But his main thing of prominence, his main position of prominence, I guess, the reason people know about him is he was the coach for Team SlayerS, and it was especially during the GSTL because MMA, who was the previous coach, was participating as a player, I believe, so that's why MMA could not be the coach, and SlayerSCella ended up coaching the team, and they did very well, and he ended up winning the coaching award. And after winning the coaching award, they kind of decided he was a really good team, and he became the head coach for Team SlayerS, which most of you know Team SlayerS, created by SlayerS Boxer. You know, very important team, has a lot of great players on it, and you know, they won the GSTO, which is a really big deal. You know, there's a lot of very good players, including IMMVP, who's on the team, Incredible Miracle. Not to mention, you know, like StarTale has July and Ace and a lot of other good players, and of course, which team am I missing? And of course, Old Generations, which has, you know, great players like Nada and MC, of course, as well. So a lot of very good players, and they were able to defeat that. To jump into this game a little bit, looks like this map is Tal'Darim Altar. Very large map. This bunker, I think, is just going to be for kind of harassment purposes. It's to get Cella to pull drones, and he's responding correctly by only pulling 3 drones right now. So he's not overreacting to something which is not really much of a threat. I believe there's only 1 barracks. There is. So I mean, these Marines have a very long way to walk whenever they spawn. So it's going to take them a very long time to get there, although he's not able to actually get at the SCV. So, actually, if that bunker finishes, that could be very bad for him. The Marine is going to try to move in, I think, as soon as the bunker finishes, but the drones just have to position themselves right to not let the Marine in. Oh, nice surround. That was so close to letting the Marine in there. And the bunker does finish. Of course, bunkers, unlike any other building, can actually be canceled at any point in time, simply by pressing the little salvage button, and you get the same percentage of resources back. Looks like the Marine is going to get in, though. Big mistake from Cella. He's now going to take a lot of losses trying to take this bunker out. Looks like one of the Zerglings is going to be taken out. He is in fact focusing down a drone right now, so it looks like a drone is going to be taken out too. Remains to be seen if he's going to get any other kills, though. I think Cella needs to control his forces just a little bit better. It looks like he took out another drone, so that's 2 drones killed so far. And finally able to take out the SCV with the newly spawning Queen. And it looks like this rush is now over. That Marine might be able to micro just a little bit against that Zergling, but he will be in fact going down, and I don't think he will get a Zergling kill. Oh, nope, not quite. If he actually let that Marine stay shooting, he would have taken out that Zergling, but did not. He did get, I believe, 2 worker kills. We can go to the Units Lost tab and see that the Zerg did in fact lose 2 drones and a Zergling. For a total of 3 units lost. So that was a very good rush from MVP. MVP, meanwhile, is doing a reactor expand behind this. Very safe build especially against Hatch First. There's basically nothing the Zerg can do about it. So these... Oh, wow. Does he not have he doesn't even have a spine crawler up right now because of the rush. So actually, these Hellions might be doing a lot of damage right now. Normally, there's a spine crawler in position, and so the Hellions can't really get into the base. But because there's no... Oh, we need to control those a little bit better. Looks like these Zerglings are going to get stopped by the wall, though, but because there's no spine crawler up at the front, it looks like the Hellions are going to get 2 more drone kills. And is he going to get a 3rd drone kill? Oh, he should be able to kill... Oh, wow, gets 3 more drone kills. and both of the Hellions are actually still alive, finally able to take one of them out, and barely able to take the second one out as well. So that was a very devastating attack on the part of MVP. MVP's gotten a lot of worker kills, and on top of that, he is going to have map control for a long time because he has that those reactored Hellions, these 4 reactored Hellions, which is going to prevent any sort of counterattack and really any sort of map control on the part of SlayerSCella. And so it looks like he is in fact going to move out, kill a couple of more Zerglings. The rest of the Zerglings are going to safely try to avoid those Hellions. It's possible they actually will be running around the side. Now the door is open if MVP does not close this in time, and no, he does not in fact close this in time. MVP was not watching, so the Zerglings are going to get in, and they should get a number of worker kills. Looks like they got 2, 3, 4 SCVs so far. 5 SCVs. That's actually very effective for a run by. It's about, I would say, about the same number of workers, although SCVs are a little less necessary than drones are, just because Terrans also have a source of income, which is mules, of course, which will, you know, kind of replaces SCVs to a certain extent, of course, although their income is reduced by the same for each worker lost. So that is something they have to think about. Part of the reason, though, of course, losing workers is so important for Zerg is because all of their workers and their warriors come from the same thing, larvae. So, you know, when you lose drones, you also lose an equal amount of attacking units that would have come from those same larvae. Although, of course, you can look at it the same way with Marines, as, you know, you could have, instead of building those 3 extra SCVs that were killed, or 5 in this case, you would have had to build Marines. Looks like the Zerglings are going to move out. I think they were checking for some sort of proxy, perhaps. They are going to move in. Looks like siege mode is not done, and the Marines are actually spread when they want to be very clumped. And these Zerglings might actually be able to get this force. If they can kill this siege tank, that's going to be a big deal. It looks like they're going to not... Oh, that's going to be close. The extra Marine and siege tank are actually going to be able to move in and take it and barely take out the Zerglings before they lose the siege tank. Each siege tank for a Terran army is incredibly important, especially when you're fighting against banelings rather, in the middle of the map. Or, well, with the Terran's push, you know, depending on when it comes, but you're going to need every siege tank you have, because one siege tank shot can be the difference between losing half your Marines or saving the group that is necessary to succeed. You know, like, pushes are just come down to very, very small amounts, and wow, it looks like actually SlayerSCella is moving in again for even more aggression. Wow. Now, siege mode is completed, however, MVP is just now setting up his siege tanks. So it looks like they'll be in a decent position to be able to hold off these Zerglings. He is going to send one in the front to be able to see what kind of position MVP has. And actually, if the Marines were just right up front here, then the Zerglings would actually have no chance, and I think they don't have any chance anyway. If he moves in, he's going to lose a lot of Zerglings for basically very, very little units killed. I do not think he'd even be able to get a siege tank out of this, much less the entire force here. And we see MVP is also building a supply depot wall. I've noticed Korean players will absolutely love to do this. A huge I was gonna say Korean wall. No, it's a very nice positioning for the siege tank there. This one's definitely going to be safe from any sort of run-bys. But the supply depot wall, very effective at stopping any sort of counterattacks, especially small Zergling counterattacks. It's very annoying to have to deal with those when you're trying to push out, especially on a map as wide open as this. It's very difficult to be able to cut out any sort of large avenues for escape. You know, you can have your army set up here on the cliff, or even up here, you know, sieging this base, but then the Zerglings just take all the way around this way, and then through the middle of the map, and then right into your base. And if you don't have the supply depot wall, then the paltry forces you have there might just get taken out by the Zerglings, and they deal a lot of economic damage. You saw earlier, you know, the economic damage, I think it was like 8 Zerglings did when they just ran into the mineral line, and, you know, if you have 20 Zerglings in the future, that's not like the biggest loss to a Zerg army, but it can deal a lot of damage to them. Looks like Stim, Medivacs, and Siege Tanks all coming out for MVP. He's getting a very well-sized army, I believe. No, the starport does not actually have a reactor on it for it. The factory was not nice enough to build a reactor, but because the factory was in fact too busy building siege tanks, heals up that SCV because the Medivac is a nice person and recognizes that the SCV was in need of a little bit of help. Looks like the Zerglings, even though positioned sort of right in the middle to be able to spot these sorts of attacks, is actually not in the correct position, so this Medivac is going to be able to get in. The Queen there will be in position to be able to spot it if that is indeed where he's dropping. It looks like he is in fact dropping on this base. There are Zerglings already available though, so MVP is not going to want to drop there. Looks like he is in fact moving over here and is going to drop the Marines off. The Marines can be very effective against Zerglings when you put them in a small little group against, especially with Stim, and they're being healed by Medivac, but looks like he's going to pull out the large amount of Queens. All target firing the Medivac is going to scare him enough into losing that Medivac, and in fact it looks like MVP is in fact going for a counterattack. So he is now dropping these forces to heal them up. He's likely going to use them as a drop later because they're not rejoining the main force right now. You can also see that why he was so careful about losing these, but looks like these Zerglings are in fact going to a counterattack, and here is exactly what I'm talking about. This counterattack is actually severely delayed, and SCVs need to get repairing. He did not send enough SCVs to repair. There's too many supply depots. Oh. However, he is sieging on his opponent's base. We're going to be able to... Oh, he does not, in fact, get through. The supply depot wall proves how important it is. And he's dropping just a couple of Marines, 8 Marines on top. This is incredibly smart. It lets you spot the high ground and also defend against any sort of attacks and deal a lot of damage to the workers on top. Looks like a big counterattack, though. A large group of Banelings there able to roll on through and take out almost all of the Marines. But as you can see, that last siege tank shot, if you pretend that that siege tank was the last siege tank shot took out the last of the Banelings there and actually proved MVP the victor. So if he had won one siege tank down, it's very possible that he could have lost that engagement, or at the very minimum had many less Marines here, which he now using to take out overlords and to take out workers, and is probably now going to be able to use to focus on the hatchery. Only 3 more Banelings, unfortunately, coming for SlayerSCella. They are now taking siege tank blasts, as this medevac has proved very hard to deal with. However, the Mutalisks are going to come out. They're going to take a lot of damage, and the Banelings actually roll in while the Marines are target firing the Mutalisks. So even though he loses, I think, a couple of Mutalisks, maybe, he was able to take out the force. He wants one more shot on the siege tank. Oh, so close. So not quite able to take out that last siege tank. Looks like he is going to move it in and did not fire. There you go. And take out that last siege tank. Now, MVP actually doesn't have any way to spot the top, but he can use a scan to be able to spot it and fire at drones. It remains to be seen if he's going to be doing that quite yet. Does not want his Mutalisks to be flying in like that. Where are the Queens? They need to heal up these Mutalisks. They are... Oh, it looks like all the Queens were taken out actually in the engagement. Now, MVP does have another medevac on the way, and here it is. And he has another medevac on top of that to be able to replace it, so he will be able to spot the high ground again. This is a very frustrating situation to deal with as a Zerg player, as your forces just don't really have the range. They're primarily melee forces, and thus designed to operate in kind of open areas, like over here. And so while he can move down and counterattack, he can't move in directly against the Terran army, which gives the Terran army a nice little wall protection right here. Looks like, and on top of that, he doesn't have sufficient Mutalisks right now to be able to take out these medevacs. So when he moves the Banelings in, looks like, oh wow, and he just GG's. But when he moves the Banelings in, it looks like, you know, they just take out all of the, they would normally take out all the Marines, but instead, MVP just lifts all the Marines up, puts them down over here, the siege tank gets to fire, gets a bunch of free shots, the Marines on the bottom get a bunch of free shots, and then the medevac just drops them off again, heals them up, and it all starts over again, and this proves so devastating that you see that MVP is in a 60-point supply lead, which is why SlayerSCella decided that he could just not win this game, and had, in fact, to GG out of it. So, very nice timing push, 2-base timing push on the part of MVP, and we will be moving on to game number 2. And also, nice supply depot wall here. He sent, I thought he didn't send enough SCVs, but he sent apparently just enough SCVs to be able to stop the Zerglings. He should have had, part of his problem, I think, was that he didn't have the new Marines rallied up here, so he didn't have any Marines firing initially when the attack came, so that's why the Zerglings were almost able to break through that wall, but not quite able to do that, and you know, MVP was just able to hold this position as a result of the Zerglings just being a little bit out of position. And SlayerSCella probably also could have positioned better for a flanking attack with Lings coming from this side, in addition to the Lings and Banelings coming from this side. I think would have been more effective. But he didn't end up doing that, which is partially what cost him the game. And we'll move on to game number 2. This is PGL Milncraft signing off.